All right, let's talk forearms. If you want to build those bigger, stronger forearms, you can just forget all those complicated routines. Today, we're going to dive deep into one single, incredibly effective exercise that'll get you there, the reverse curl. You know that thick, powerful forearm look? It's the kind of thing that really completes a physique, right? But it's an area so many of us just overlook in our training. We're going to fix that right now. Well, the solution is actually way simpler than you'd think. It's time to meet your new best friend for forearm growth, the reverse curl. This is the one, the exact movement we need to target that powerful look we're all after. And you know what the best part is? You don't need any fancy specialized equipment for this. A standard barbell or even just a set of dumbbells will get the job done. That makes this a super versatile move you can pretty much do anywhere. Okay, let's get into the how-to. The key to any exercise is perfect form, and the reverse curl is absolutely no exception. So let's break it down. We've got 4 simple but absolutely crucial steps to nail this. Let's walk through it. First, stand up tall and get a solid palms down grip on the weight. Step 2 is huge. Tuck those elbows right into your sides and lock them there. Don't let them flare out. Now for the curl itself. You're going to move that weight using only your forearms. Seriously, fight that urge to swing your body or use your shoulders. And finally, maybe the most important part of all, lower the weight slowly. You got to control it on the way down. That's where the real growth happens. Okay, so we've got the form down pat. But what's actually going on under the skin here? Let's take a look at the why behind this exercise and the specific muscle we're trying to build to get that forearm thickness. So the muscle we're really going after here is called the brachioradialis. What's cool about this muscle is where it sits and what it does. It's a big muscle right on the thumb side of your forearm, and it's a super powerful elbow flexor, especially when you use that palms down grip. And this is where it all clicks. The brachioradialis is one of the main players in giving your forearms that really thick look. So the big takeaway here is to keep your wrists straight and totally controlled through the whole movement. That's how you make sure you're hitting it just right. All right, so you've mastered the basics. You're feeling good. Ready to, take it up a notch? Let's talk about a simple but intense challenge to really supercharge your results and build some serious strength. 5. Just the number 5. That's all you need to remember. Sounds simple, right? But trust me on this. This little addition is a total game changer. So here's what you're going to do. On every single rep, when you get to the very top of that curl, you're going to pause. And you're going to hold that contraction, squeezing that bar, for a full 5 seconds. Feel those forearm muscles just screaming at you before you start that slow, controlled trip down. And the payoff for this one tiny change? It's huge. I mean, adding this 5-second hold will absolutely light up your grip strength like crazy. We're talking about building that real, functional power that's going to help you out in so many of your other lifts. So there you go. That's the reverse curl. From the technique to the target muscle, and even a little challenge to take it to the next level. The only question left is, are you ready to upgrade your grip and build some seriously impressive forearms? All right, today we're going to master a small movement that delivers some seriously big results, the dumbbell wrist curl. If you've ever wanted more powerful forearms or a grip that just won't quit on you, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the definitive technique. So does this sound familiar? Your grip fails on a heavy deadlift way before your back does? Or maybe you're just chasing that dense, defined look in your forearms. If you're nodding your head right now, well, the solution might just be this one simple movement we're about to master. Our goal here is pretty simple, to make the dumbbell wrist curls so second nature to you that you can do it perfectly every single time for the best possible results. So let's start with the basics. Okay, so what is the dumbbell wrist curl? Well, it's what we call an isolation exercise. Think of it like putting a laser focus on one specific muscle group. In this case, the wrist flexors, right on the underside of your forearm. By not letting other muscles jump in to help, we force this one area to do all the work. And you know what? That's the real secret to why it's so effective. Now, let's get into the setup. And I gotta tell ya, a perfect starting position is completely non-negotiable. It's the foundation for everything, for your safety and for getting the most out of every single rep you do. It's a really easy 4-step setup. First, just sit down on a bench. Then, rest your forearms on your thighs. This gives you that critical support. Now, let your wrists hang just off the edge of your knees, which gives you a great range of motion. And finally, grab your dumbbells with your palms facing up. See? This stable base is what really lets us isolate the muscle. Okay, you're in position. Now let's talk about the movement itself. Remember, with an exercise like this, it's the quality of every single repetition that brings the results, not just cranking out a ton of reps. The movement really has two distinct parts. First, you're going to slowly lower the weight, really feeling a deep stretch as your wrists extend. Then, curl the weight back up. But, and this is key, you're using only your wrist strength. The most crucial part? Your forearms have to stay absolutely still, like they're glued to your thighs. Look, if you remember just one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. The movement must be slow and controlled. Speed is your enemy here. It's that control that actually forces the muscle to engage and ultimately to grow. Okay, so you've got the basics down pat. Now, let's dive into the little details that separate a pretty good rep from a truly great one. And of course, how to avoid the common mistakes that can hold you back. Here's a pro tip that'll completely elevate this exercise for you. At the very top of the movement, when you've curled all the way up, just pause. Actively squeeze your forearms for a full 1 to 2 seconds. We call this a peak contraction, and it's the secret to getting the most muscle fibers involved. It's such a small change, but it makes a huge difference. You want to know the single most common mistake people make with this? They sacrifice their form for speed. They just rush through the movement using momentum instead of muscle, and they pretty much rob themselves of all the benefits. The difference couldn't be simpler. The right way, a slow, controlled lift with that nice pause at the top. The mistake, rushing the motion, and even worse, bouncing the weight at the bottom. Come on, remember, if you're bouncing, you're using momentum, not muscle. You're only cheating yourself. All these details we've talked about, the slow reps, the pause, avoiding the bounce, they all serve one golden rule. The single most important principle you need to get is this. Tension is everything. That's it. Your goal from start to finish is to keep constant tension on those wrist flexor muscles through the entire set. Every single piece of perfect form is designed to maximize this tension. If you feel that burn, you're doing it right. If you're just moving the weight, you're not. Simple as that. So here it is, your final mental checklist before you start a set. Ask yourself, am I stable and seated? Is my movement slow and controlled? Am I pausing at the top? And am I bouncing the weight? Absolutely not. You nail those 4 points and you've mastered this exercise. And we'll leave you with this thought. You now have the blueprint for a perfect wrist curl. But that golden rule, tension is everything, it applies to every single exercise you do in the gym. So, are you just moving weight around or are you creating tension? The answer to that question will define your results. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey everyone, and welcome! Today we're going to talk about one of the most underrated yet totally visible muscle groups you've got, your forearms. We're going to dive into why these muscles are the secret key to unlocking your entire upper body's true potential. You know, this quote really hits the nail on the head. It points out a massive mistake so many people make. We all see folks in the gym with huge arms, big chests, but their forearms just don't match up. And here's the kicker. That imbalance is literally holding back all their other gains.
So that's the big question, right? And look, this isn't just about looking good in a t-shirt. It's about building raw, functional strength. And in this breakdown, we're going to give you the exact blueprint to make it happen.
But before we get to the how, let's really lock in the why. Think about it. Your grip is the only thing connecting you to the weight. If your forearms give out, the lift is over, period. It doesn't matter how strong your back is. A stronger grip means you can pull heavier deadlifts, crank out more pull-ups, and control every single exercise better. And that means more muscle growth and way less chance of getting injured.
So how do we get there? Well, we've broken it all down into 5 super simple but seriously powerful keys. This isn't some crazy, complicated new workout. It's all about applying the fundamentals with focus and, most importantly, consistency.
We're going to kick things off with a simple mental trick. Then we'll get into some specific exercises and a pretty cool advanced technique. After that, we'll talk about timing it all right, and we'll finish up with the golden rule of all strength training. So let's just jump right in.
All right, first up, and this is the easiest change you can make for immediate results, you've got to master the squeeze. This is all about your intention when you lift.
Okay, so the idea here is incredibly simple, but so effective.
Next time you grab a dumbbell, a barbell, anything, don't just hold on to it. I want you to try and crush it. Squeeze that handle as hard as you possibly can through the entire lift. Just doing that one thing fires up your forearm muscles and basically turns every exercise you do into a forearm builder.
So squeezing the bar is a fantastic start, for sure, but it's not the whole picture. To really, really get those forearms to grow, we have to isolate them for maximum impact. See, your forearms are made up of all these little, complex muscles. You wouldn't skip bicep curls and expect big biceps, right? It's the same idea here. You need direct, targeted work to hit them properly. We're talking about things like wrist curls where your palms face up and reverse wrist curls where your palms face down. This kind of direct work is absolutely essential to unlock their full potential.
Okay, once you're doing those isolation moves, there's a technique that can seriously level up your results. It's called embracing the negative. That's just the fancy term for the lowering part of the lift.
So here's the cool part, a little bit of science for you. Your muscles are actually stronger when you're lowering a weight than when you're lifting it. To take advantage of that, you have to slow things way down. So for a wrist curl, that means you curl the weight up, maybe takes 1 second, but then you take a full 3 or 4 seconds to lower it back down nice and controlled. This creates more of those tiny micro tears in the muscle, which is exactly what your body rebuilds to come back bigger and stronger. So that slow negative creates a ton of intensity. And to manage that, we need to talk about timing. Which brings us to number 4, something that works especially well for forearms, increasing your training frequency. Think about it. After a heavy leg day, you might be sore for a week, right? But your forearms, they're different. They're built for endurance, and they can recover way faster. That gives us a huge opportunity. You can, and you probably should, train them more often. Just tacking on a few sets of forearm work at the end of your workouts 2, maybe even 3 times a week, is going to provide a much bigger signal for them to grow. And that leads us perfectly into our 5th and final key. And honestly, this is the absolute golden rule of any kind of strength training. You have to challenge them with overload. Your body is an amazing adaptation machine, but it's also kind of lazy. It's not going to change or get stronger unless you force it to. That means you always have to be pushing yourself. Every week, just try to do a little more. Add a tiny bit of weight, push for 1 more rep, or cut your rest time down. If you don't keep giving it a new challenge, your progress will eventually just stop.
Okay, so we've got the 5 keys for what you should do, but it's just as important to talk about what not to do. Let's run through the most common mistakes that can totally kill your forearm gains.
First on the list, ego lifting. Come on, we've all seen it. The person who loads up way too much weight for wrist curls and then uses their entire body to just heave it up. That momentum takes all the work away from your forearms. The fix is easy. Check the ego at the door, lower the weight, and focus on a strict, controlled movement where you can actually feel your forearms doing the work.
Yeah, I know, we already talked about this, but it's so important I've got to say it again. Thinking that your deadlifts and pull-ups are enough to build great forearms, well, that's kind of like thinking squats are enough for your calves. Sure, they help, but for that full 3D development, you've absolutely got to add that dedicated isolation work. Oh, this is a big one. So many people only do standard wrist curls. That's called wrist flexion, and it works the muscles on the underside of your forearm. But they completely forget to do reverse wrist curls, which is wrist extension, and that works all the muscles on top. That's how you get imbalances in strength, and it just looks kind of weird too. You got to train both sides for balanced power and size.
All right, let's wrap this all up. We've gone over what to do, what to avoid. Now let's put it all together into a simple plan you can use today.
Here it is, your cheat sheet. Number 1, squeeze every bar like you mean it. 2, add in direct isolation work like wrist curls and reverse curls. 3, slow down and really control that negative portion of the lift. 4, hit them 2 to 3 times a week. And 5, the big one, always try to do a little bit more than you did last time. It really is that straightforward.
You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we're talking about building your forearms or anything else in life, really. This idea holds true everywhere. There are no secret tricks, no magic pills. Your success is always going to be the direct result of the consistent, smart effort you put in over time.
So there you have it. The blueprint is right in front of you. All the tools you need are in your hands. The only question left is, what are you going to build with them? Thanks for tuning in.